Special Operations Training Detachment, SOD West, Burrow Team. Coming at you from NTC, Off the Radar.
This is Off the Radar. I'm Captain Weston Rich, an observer coach trainer for the Green Berets at the National Training Center. Army Special Operations Forces tribes each play critical roles throughout competition, crisis, and conflict. Their ability to integrate and interoperate with each other and the conventional force is vital to determine the success during future conflict. Here at the National Training Center, Special Operations Forces and conventional forces on both the good guy side and the bad guy or opposing force side train together to enhance interoperability. Each rotation, we have Army Special Operation Force Tribe partner, or Army Special Operation Forces partnering with the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, or Black Horse, to conduct operations as opposing forces. This rotation, we had the first ever civil affairs team conduct opposing force civil affair operations, and typically we also have a Special Forces ODA conducting SF operations on the opposing force, and we have a Tactical PSYOP Detachment team. What level are you?
I'm a Detachment Sergeant.
Detachment Sergeant? Okay, so we have members of all the ARSOF tribes with us today to discuss operations as the opposing force at the National Training Center. We have Spencer from the Tactical PSYOP Detachment that was here this rotation. We have Michael from the CA or Civil Affairs team that was here, and we have Andrew from the Special Forces ODA that was here. Additionally, in the back, this is a new try for our podcast. We have some observer coach trainers for the PSYOP and civil affairs guys sitting in the back that can chime in. So thank you all for taking the time. I know we are busy and you guys are about to head out of here after you get your after action review. So quick, we'll start with Spencer. Give a brief introduction of yourself, time in special operations, the Army, whatever you feel like sharing with the group. And then we'll just go around and each of you can introduce yourselves.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I'm Spencer. I'm the Detachment Sergeant for the Red PSYOP team that was out here. I've been in PSYOP for almost 8 years now. Before that, I was a 12 Bravo for roughly 7 years, decided to come on over. In my time in PSYOP, I've got 2 operational rotations supporting Special Operations Command Europe. And then I've served time at the Theater Army in Europe as a PSYOP planner for 3 years in Wiesbaden, Germany.
I'm Michael. I'm the Civil Affairs Captain. One thing up front, I think we'll get into it a little bit during the podcast, but the difference between Reserve Civil Affairs and SOF Civil Affairs. So we'll talk that piece in a little bit. But my background, I was a light infantry platoon leader, did 16 months on the line, was an XO for a while, and also deployed. I've been in the regiment now since 2022, but this was my first NTC rotation as a team leader. But I have been to GRTC 3 times, so a little bit of experience on both ends. Played Red as an infantry platoon leader at JRTC, and then to see Red here at NTC during SOF. So,
yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm the SOF ODA commander that was out here. So I've been in 10th Group in SOF for about 2 years. Been in command of the detachment for about 14 months. And I've got 1 rotation in support of SOC year. Through 10th Group, and then pretty standard path to Special Forces. I was also 11 Alpha, did some light infantry time, and then also was a battalion scout PL for a combined arms battalion. I actually did a rotation out here in 2019. So this is my first time getting to see the OPFOR side of the house.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Hey, our OCTs on the couch, just go ahead and introduce yourselves real fast.
Yep. Sergeant Class Caroline. I'm the NCOIC for the Civil Affairs OCTs here on Burrow Team. Spent a couple years in 82nd. Went to the CAQC from there. Went through the medic course. Did 3 years as a team medic in AFRICOM. Spent 2 years on Burrow Team previously. Went back, did 2 years as a team sergeant. Now I'm back on Burrow Team again for my round 2 here at NTC.
And then I'm Cody, Sergeant First Class. I've been on Burrow Team for about 1.5 years now. Prior to psychological operations, I was infantry in the 82nd, did a couple deployments with them, and then transferred over to PSYOP and did 2 rotations to Syria and 1 rotation to Panama. Before coming here.
All right, thank you. So, Spencer, you were an engineer, 12 Bravo's combat engineer? Or
Yes, sir. 12
okay.
Bravo.
Did you do any CTC rotations?
I did two NTC and 2 JRTC as a combat engineer, and this is my second NTC rotation as a PSYOP.
Okay.
First time it was with Blue 4.
Okay.
So completely different experiences.
All right, so just tell us a little bit about, I did good guy Blue 4 side as a PSYOPer, and now I did the opposing force side. What are the key differences, and what would you prefer?
So I like both. I had great experiences with both. I think with the red side, the authorities are squeezed in a little bit more, and getting things approved from the PSYOP perspective, it's fast tracked, right? Because we want to push the information environment. On the blue side, they do a really good job of maintaining that rigorous approving channel for appropriate reasons, right? So I think we're able to do analysis. We're a smaller unit on the REDSOF as well, right? So instead of having an AOB that I would support, it was an ODA with a CAT, and we were all supported together. So we were able to do more like hasty planning and then develop PSYOP products off of that, get them approved at a quicker rate, and then get them out there.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. How long ago was your blue PSYOP
Oh,
rotation?
man. It was 2018.
Was it more of a counterinsurgency, or was it?
No,
more
it was
of
completely unconventional warfare scenario.
Okay, so completely different scenario than what you experience now. Awesome. And then, Mike, you said you had, albeit on the conventional side, experience doing opposing force at JRTC. Anything you want to talk about, like differences between what that was like versus what you did as Red CA here?
Yeah, so Red Conventional 4 down at the Joint Readiness Training Center in Louisiana, we had no rules. Straight off the leash, you could do whatever you wanted. We were augmenting Geronimo, and they basically used us as whatever we wanted to do, we could accomplish it. So stealing vehicles, like slitting throats while people were sleeping in patrol bases, we were good to go. Here, I was very deliberate, being the first soft CA team leader or team in general to work Red at NTC. We wanted to make sure that everything we did was by the book. So we may have squeezed the boundary just a little bit and went up all the way to the line as we possibly could, but I tried my best to make sure everything that we were doing, we were fighting our doctrine. So there wasn't anything out of the norm that we wouldn't do as blue or the good guys. We just had a little bit more leeway.
Okay.
And that is just based on the fact where I wasn't reporting to anyone other than getting it approved. Andrew and I, we would talk, be like, hey, these are the effects we want to have. We'd kind of turn over to the OCT, and he'd kind of just give us a thumbs up, and then we'd execute.
Awesome. All right, and then we'll go to Andrew. You also had some JRTC or Joint Readiness Training experience. First time at a CTC as a soft guy, though, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so what's your takeaway on differences? I got it. Soft versus conventional, Joint Readiness Training versus National Training Center. You know, lots of different components into that, but what's your take on going to a CTC as a SF guy?
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest struggles I actually had out there was, hey, am I taking on a target, or am I taking on a mission that, you know, is soft specific, or am I being redundant with a conventional force effort, right? So we also kind of took the same approach as Mike was alluding to. It's like, let's not go out here and do anything that we wouldn't actually do in real life just to get out the door and to get a mission, right?
Yeah.
So that was difficult, right? When, you know, especially we're driving a targeting cycle and you're in such a target-rich environment against a rotational blue 4, it's like, all right, hey, are we actually going to go after this? Or is that something where we can just observe, report, and hand it off to somebody? Understanding that really the survivability of the soft unit's got to be paramount, because, you know, you just can't infill somebody with the right access and placement and in real life, like, actually regenerate that force. So, yeah.
No, I kind of wanted to hit on that. So Andrew kind of hit the nail on the head, but it's one of the fact where we were the only soft element for Red.
Yep.
So we were very meticulous in our mission analysis, what the mission required. Even just our final mission, the ODA really wanted to get out the door. Some of them felt like their hands had been tied. And doing the analysis, we recognized some risks. And kudos to Andrew and his team sergeant, because they're like, no, we're not executing this mission because of the heightened risk and what it would actually require to mitigate it. So kind of keep that in mind, is like, we were not free reign out there running around guns a-blazing.
Yeah.
We were very meticulous in the steps that we took as we as we looked at the mission, as we looked at the risks associated with it, and does this meet the commander's desired end state?
Yeah, and I'll touch on that too. And it's not like we were risk averse, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and that's where I think too there was a little confusion. It's like, hey, why aren't these guys getting out the door as often, or actually on target as much? And it's because there was that realism to it. It's like, hey, we have an opportunity with Red Side, kind of similar to Mike's at JRTC, where it's like, sure, we could be infill and patrol bases under the cover of darkness and just slitting throats, taking scalps. Is that really what we would do in a large-scale combat environment? Or is there, I hate to use a kind of a canned phrase, but there's definitely a threshold of violence that you have to be cognizant of, because it's like, hey, who could have done this? All right, probably special forces. Now you're on the radar, and now they're tasking assets against you.
Oh, yeah. So I do want to say I appreciate you guys bringing up, risk. That's something that every commander and their senior enlisted have to have that discussion every time. And unfortunately, some people just wave it off and go, hey, I want to get out the door. So like you highlighted, it's got to be SOF specific. Whatever tribe you're in, it's got to be SOF specific. Otherwise, the conventional force probably should do it, because it might highlight that you're there and put a target on you, and then you're taking away assets that are valuable to that larger force. And then just the survivability aspect of that as well. So we will backtrack into prior to the rotation. Just what did you guys do to prepare? Was there any specific training that you did to prepare for this?
So for the ODA, right, in our training cycle, we really didn't tailor any specific training towards NTC, right? Because we saw NTC as the backfill for anything that we weren't able to accomplish in kind of the 14 months up to this. We did put an emphasis prior to kicking out here on some special reconnaissance. But other than that, we're like, hey, NTC is going to be our opportunity to look at what the team needs to train on, and we're going to get after that. So the gap coming in here was kind of that partner force integration, right? I think that's just something that in SOF we're struggling with right now, is terms of just building the relationship and actually getting backside support and home station training to have to have some partner force that you can grab. So we were really working hard to have the guys actually, get a train, advise, assist, and then that final piece, the accompany on mission, which is kind of what drove some of our journey and put us in some spots where it's like, is that really where I'd be? Maybe not, but we're going to get after that training objective. What I will say for the cross-functional team, right? We were fortunate enough to get Mike's whole team out, and then Spencer and one of his guys for our 96-hour MDMP cycle. And we were able to develop a pretty good campaign plan. And even though it seemed like it in the box, we were nowhere where we were at. When we stepped back, we were like, hey, we did everything that we said we were going to do when we did our MDMP cycle. But what I will say for anyone who's coming out and going to take on the red side again, I highly recommend they invest into the cross-functional team approach. And I will say, if you are meeting, at least for the ODA, if you're meeting the civil affairs team and the TPT when you first show up to NTC, you're too late. Like getting in there, doing the joint planning, and just getting to, those intros, just that normal steps of team building, you got to get that on the front end because I had a good idea of what Mike's team's capability was out, as well as their culture, and the same thing for Spencer and his guys. We knew what that was going in, and we were able to, as an ODA, plan and understand a little bit of that. And then when we actually got out here, it was, once they were off doing their thing, we were like, oh my gosh, these guys are absolutely an asset, and they're they're providing things for us that we just couldn't do on ourselves. We could do it on ourselves if we had the time, but like in the condensed, 10 to 12 days out there, we would not have accomplished nearly as much if it weren't for just going all in on the cross-functional team on the approach on the front end. I don't know if Mike or Spence wants to add anything on that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. So the cross-functional team, I know it's not a doctrine term, but we use it all the time in SOF just to bring all the tribes together. One thing that did help, yes, was the planning, but also I almost felt like that wasn't enough.
Okay.
There are times where you're still filling out the team where they don't understand capabilities, or even just like the basic soldier like one tasks. How well do we shoot, move, and communicate as a team? Because that brings in a lot of risk whenever we're planning any missions. Like, are these guys liabilities, or can they actually like get in a gunfight? And so it's almost now that SOF is transitioning to now we align with our ODAs, right? Like whatever COCOM you're in, now you're aligned to that battalion.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier, and I would recommend anyone coming out here, if you know that you're about to do an NTC rotation, or more importantly, deployment, that you're getting those teams out there you're going to be working with and do training outside of the box before you even start planning, just even a little bit more. That'll just make it easier, because we ran into some situations where, yeah, we have the same training, but everyone wants to be the prettiest girl at the party. And so you want to make sure that the guys to your left and your right understand that, the slipper fits, right? I'm okay at what I do, and I'm pretty good at my job.
Yeah.
And being out in any sort of mission is the wrong time to figure that out, and the wrong time to test it, right? We're going under nods, we're going blackout, we're driving, 10 clicks at night through rough terrain. Can these guys like utilize their nods, and do they know like how to adjust their focus? And if you're asking that question, like, then we are 10 steps like behind the curve.
Yeah. Anything to add, Spencer, on?
Yeah, the collective mission analysis, I think that gave us perspective. Instead of planning in our silos of excellence and then trying to come together when we got here, we collectively did it, and we all had a common understanding of what we were going to do. And especially from the PSYOP perspective, I've been there where we show up to an exercise and we constantly have to explain what we're doing or what we're allowed to do, what we're capable of doing. And I think that analysis kind of cleared that up. I understood the commander's intent. I understood what he wanted, and we were able to plan off of that. And that saved us a lot of heartache and a lot of time when we got here, because we're on a compressed timeline. So I just thought that was invaluable.
Yeah. So how far out was that combined planning process? And I'm guessing that was at Fort Carson. So you guys had to go TDY to Fort Carson for that.
Yeah.
3 weeks,
Yep.
right? Yeah,
3
probably
weeks.
3 weeks before we got into the box.
Any crosstalk prior to that?
Yeah,
Email, phone call?
we came down and joined in on the LTP, the Leadership Training Program.
Awesome.
So some of the key leaders came down and they just met each other. We did the MDMP cycle prior to the real one that you do. I think NTC does it just so they can make sure that the leadership knows how to even do MDMP, right? That's what the Leadership Training Program is about.
I mean, it is to give battalions and brigade staffs time away from their home station to do a MDMP cycle as a staff. Because if you remember back in your conventional days, like same as being at home station in your RSOF unit, like they're doing all these things, training, operations, etc., so they can't like train their own staff on how to do MDMP and get a rep together. So that's what LTP is about for everybody.
Also a wrong answer. That's the first time you're doing MDMP together is here at LTP. I think you guys might be behind the power curve.
I'm not saying they're not doing MDMP. I'm just saying they want to like carve time away, have trainers there available, and focus on a large scale combat operation instead of doing MDMP on like platoon live fires or something that a ABC, IBC would do. Infantry brigade combat team or whatever.
As pretty as Fort Irwin is, if that's all it is, can we pick a nicer location? Maybe Miami or somewhere nice where we all can meet together and conduct some planning.
Somebody else's decision, but that's pretty good. All right. Did you guys have any ability to get out and train together prior to arrival here, or just the planning?
No, it really was just the planning. One thing we made sure of is we knew our infill would be just a little bit different. We'd have a lot of walking, put a lot of miles on our feet. And so when we were at Carson, we went to the incline.
Okay.
And just
Nice.
wrote down our times just to show the ODA that we are in shape, just let them know that we could beat their times.
Yeah, good. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to knock my own, RSOF Tribe here, but like, yeah, don't just look at a CA or a PSYOPer and think that they can't hang just because they don't have a long tab. They're made of, the same stuff. They did a selection, so they have the ability to be just as physically fit or more so than you.
I say that as a joke, just because I got to give Andrew and his team like some kudos, right? First thing Andrew did when we got there for the planning was, hey, here's the ground, here's my understanding. I'm really excited for you guys to be here. And I've heard a lot of horror stories in the past where the branches come together and they don't work really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, everyone wants to be the prettiest girl at the party. Everyone thinks they're the shiny toy, and no one's willing to put their pride aside for the betterment of the team. And that is a knock on all three of the branches. And so Andrew kind of just setting the stage right off the bat, kind of just let us integrate in day one, right? We didn't have that much time. And so in the first couple hours, we were already integrating. He was already asking for feedback, willing to learn, and his team sergeant too, right? So that's huge, is being humble enough on all playing fields to be able to work together and know that everyone has something to bring to the fight. And Andrew mentioned a little bit earlier was, can I shoot, move, and communicate? Yep. Is that what I train all day, every day? Absolutely not. Can they conduct key leader engagements? Absolutely. But is that their bread and butter? Probably not so much, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to utilize the teams where they're supposed to go, it was fun actually seeing how well and how meshed PSYOP and civil affairs need to be in order to look at our measures of effectiveness and measures of performance, as well as if we're doing that, how much extra freedom of maneuver the ODA has on the battlefield.
Yeah, go for it, Andrew.
Yeah, and I'll speak directly to the GBs too, right? Hey, I would just say, put any biases aside if you get tasked or if you ever have the opportunity to kind of adopt a cross-functional team approach. Let the bias be that these guys are professional, they're physically fit, and they're here to help until proven otherwise. And to Mike and Spencer's credit, and more so to the NCOs, they proved that. And that's where it just became easy. If you go into that with, like I said, your bias being these guys are here to help, they want to help. There's not necessarily to Mike's point, they are looking to be the prettiest girl at the party. Instead, it's more about being the best looking group there that draws everybody to you because they just want to be part of something special. And I think we saw that particularly from Black Horse 11 ACR out here. I think once they saw how well the cross-functional team was jiving and what we were actually doing, then they were like, oh, hey, let's put some more support and resources behind these guys. So at that point, anytime that we came back in to tie in with those guys, they had the Rolodex of you guys want the Gray Eagle on station this time. You guys need forward passage lines or rearward passage lines. Hey, here, the playbook just opened up when they could see that this cross-functional team is working well together and they want to help.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Off the Radar, where we sat down with the detachment level leadership from Red Special Forces, Civil Affairs, and Psychological Operations. In this episode, we discussed what the key differences are between Blue 4 and Red 4, what makes a mission SOF specific, and the importance of building the cross-functional team. Next time, we'll discuss how the cross-functional team works on the ground, signature management, and communication across the ARSOF tribes.
Thank you for listening to Off the Radar, where ARSOF prepares for conflict. Like, subscribe, and share on your listening platform. Actions will determine the outcome.